I think it's irony that when this kind of drugs are prescribed to a patient for indefinite period till the person survives, and you put such a high price on the drugs, how you expect the family of the patient to carry on if you don't cut the cost on this particular thing. And the hospitals and the doctors have to understand that this kind of policies which they make in the hospitals is not beneficial for the patient, and they have to see in the interest of the patient to bring down the cost of these drugs.
Hello and welcome to NewsClick. Today we are in conversation with Kalyani Menon. She is a feminist researcher and activist, and she's been instrumental in launching a campaign for access to a very important drug that is used for breast cancer called Herceptin. Welcome to the show, Kalyani.
Thanks, Amit.
And could you just take us through the reason why you thought this was an important campaign to take up, especially in the context of women's lives and especially women who suffer from breast cancer today?
It actually has a very personal starting point. A young friend of mine, she's not even 40, was diagnosed with breast cancer last year, and it was found to be cancer of a type called HER2 positive. The doctor told her that there was a drug which could save her life. I mean, he told her that this is a very, very aggressive, very fast spreading form of cancer. He told her there was a drug called Herceptin that could save her life, and he said, but it's a very expensive drug, you won't be able to afford it, so we'll go for routine chemotherapy. So I called her to find out what was happening, and when she told me this, I was just horrified at the thought that a young woman should be told by her doctor that she was doomed because she couldn't afford a drug. So then when I started researching, very, very superficial kind of research, there were fantastic reports about Herceptin's efficacy in stopping secondaries from HER2 cancer and really getting rid of the cancer.
How expensive is it?
At that time, when my friend was diagnosed, it was about 1,12,000 per dose. Mm-hmm. And I just told her…
And how many doses would
12 doses for a full course.
So that's about 12 lakhs in a year.
Yeah, about 13-14 lakhs in a year.
And has the price come down?
Soon after the first compulsory license was issued by the government, Roche announced a price cut, and they brought the price down to 75,000. I mean, they did it in two stages. First, I think when the news was in the air that the compulsory license would be issued, they brought it down to 92,000 from 1,12,000, and then from 92 down to 75.
So what you are saying is that basically Roche anticipated that there might be a compulsory license issued on this drug as well, and this was a way to stop generic manufacturers from coming in.
I think so. I think it's pretty clear, and it's not only in the case of Roche and Herceptin. In most such very expensive drugs, any sort of turbulence on the policy front indicating that the government might take a step induces manufacturers to do these voluntary price cuts, which actually look very good on paper. I mean, down to 75,000 from 1,12,000 or so is nearly a 50% price cut. And I've had people asking me, Roche has cut their prices with 50%. What is your problem? I mean, why are you…
So what is your problem?
Amit, it's so obvious. For 75,000, how many women can afford 12 injections of Herceptin? It's ridiculous.
But are you also then arguing that 75,000 is also too high as far as Roche is concerned, and it can be brought down much lower than that?
Much too high. And the reason why I'm saying that is Roche very soon after that got into a deal with an Indian manufacturer and is now issuing an Indian version of Herceptin called Herclone. That is being sold in the market between 55 and 75,000. So it seems to me that if prices can be brought down so drastically and apparently arbitrarily, there is no relation to the cost of production. It's simply the price is set on the basis of how much the market can bear.
Do you have a ballpark figure of how much it can be actually brought down to?
I'm not a technical person. I mean, I don't know what it costs to manufacture, and I don't know how much money went into developing it. I'm not looking at it from the point of view of what the price should be.
Yeah, because why I'm asking this is that if you look at the evidence from HIV/AIDS, we do have evidence that prices came down by something like 97%, and there seems to be some information available that even for drugs like Herceptin, which are biosimilars for Herceptin, can be sold at probably even 1/5 or 1/10 of the price. But we don't have a figure at the moment as to how low it can be costed, right?
We don't have a figure, but it's fair to think it should be a massive price reduction. I mean, I expect about 90% cheaper than it is right now.
So something which is less than 10,000 per dose, or probably even less.
Five to 10,000 a dose.
In how many patients would Herceptin actually be useful?
Herceptin has been proven useful in all cases of HER2 plus breast cancer.
Which is the most aggressive type.
Which is a very aggressive type, and also seems to be appearing in younger and younger cohorts every year. And that's official data, which we know is only a tiny piece of the actual occurrence. So right now, according to the ICMR, they are recording 25,000 new cases of HER2 breast cancer every year, which is a sizable figure. I mean,
out of a total of about 100,000.
About a lakh, yeah, about 100,000 cases of breast cancer, of which 25% are HER2 positive.
And all of them would benefit from Herceptin.
That's what the studies seem to show. Initially, they used to give it in combination with chemotherapy. Now they're using it first before surgery to shrink the tumor, then after surgery in combination with chemotherapy.
And on an average, what is the kind of a benefit? Does it cure the cancer totally in those who respond, or does it prolong life?
I'm reluctant to use technical terms because I'm not a technical person. But what the studies say, I mean, what the data shows is that the chances of recurrence are drastically reduced, more than 50% cut in chances of recurrence, and therefore chances of a disease-free life, a longer disease-free life in future. And because it's young women who are getting this kind of cancer, I think it's an extremely, extremely important finding. I mean, it's been called a miracle drug.
And do we have any data as to, given the present pricing, how many women are actually able to access it in India?
We're not able to get any data. There is one person who sells Herceptin in Delhi. I've been trying to talk with him and ask him how many doses he sells a month. He's understandably reluctant to disclose this information. But I saw an interview with a doctor from the Tata Cancer Institute who said that only 1 in 10 patients whom he sees who need Herceptin is actually able to get even a partial course. He wasn't sure whether they're even able to get a full course.
And people who get to Tata would generally be better off than the general population.
Definitely more privileged than the average Indian woman who can't even get to a primary health center.
Right. And Herceptin is a drug that was introduced in 1998, if I'm not wrong, and by Roche. And for most drugs that were introduced at that point of time, Indian companies were able to produce generics because the Indian patent law did not start applying till 2005. But what is it so special about drugs like Herceptin that makes it more difficult for Indian generic companies to produce them?
I don't think it really is a technical issue of being able to build that molecule in another process. I think there's so much of complication about getting it cleared as a biosimilar, because as I understand it...
Can you just explain what you mean by a biosimilar and how does it differ from a generic drug?
In a generic drug, a chemical drug, I guess it would be the same molecule. In a biosimilar, it would be a molecule with the same effect. It would be a similar molecule with the same effect.
So biosimilars are, to put it in a layman's term, are generic versions of biotechnologically engineered drugs.
Biological molecules.
So Herceptin is a biological molecule, and so that's the first problem.
That's right. But I think the greater problem is really the certification process. I mean, there are no clear guidelines laid down either in India, in our law or internationally, on what will be regarded as equally effective. To qualify as a biosimilar, a molecule would have to, I mean, we'd have to show that this molecule has the same therapeutic effect. How does one judge that same? You know, and one parallel...
And that process is more difficult in the case of biosimilars.
Well, if the guidelines are not laid down, it is difficult. And in a parallel line along with our campaign in India, we are trying to see if WHO can be requested to introduce clear guidelines for certification of biosimilars.
But are there Indian companies who claim today that they have biosimilar versions which are equally effective?
You know, Amit, nobody will say this officially, because until they know that there is a possibility of producing it, they don't want to reveal their hand either. But unofficially, one hears that there are at least 2 or 3 companies who are in very advanced stages. A company from Korea has contacted me saying that they have a molecule which is now in its 3rd phase of testing, and asking when we think the notification for a CL will be issued. So obviously the technical part of building this molecule is not all that complicated. People have done it.
So what is holding back the introduction of versions which are much cheaper are basically regulatory issues.
Absolutely.
Patents are not an issue in this case?
Roche holds the patent, and Roche also holds several other patents which are kind of ring fencing the molecule. It seems to be a sort of preemptive strategy to just keep blocking all the routes by which people might contest this patent. So it really will have to be a strong, clear action by the government to allow others to produce this molecule.
Perhaps for situations very similar to this, we introduced a clause in our Indian Patent Act when it was amended in 2005, which says that the government can act proactively even if a manufacturer does not put its hand up to issue a compulsory license to other manufacturers in what they call situations of urgency or emergency. Now, do you think that's an option for Herceptin, that can the government use that option in this case?
I would say very strongly that it is an option. 25,000 young women getting struck down by this disease every year should certainly qualify as a national health emergency. I think certainly the government needs to take cognizance, needs to invite manufacturers to apply for a license.
Last question. What has been Roche's role in this whole, what has been your experience of whether Roche has been supportive of what you are trying to do, or they have been trying to obstruct the process? How have they been looking at this?
I haven't had any direct conversations with decision makers in Roche, and I mean, I'm not aware of what discussions they're having with the government. There is conversation on blogs and so on where this campaign is being reported, apparently from people either from the pharmaceutical industry or from Roche itself. Extremely sharp reactions about how the CL route to access to medicines is a very, very unjust route, and how Roche has done such voluntary price reductions that's not being appreciated, and so on. So obviously there is something happening there. But I just want to make it clear, Amit, this is not about targeting Roche or attacking Roche. The issue is, if India is committed, as it is constitutionally, to right to health, and in a situation where diseases like this, rather than communicable diseases, it's diseases like cancer, which are now becoming more and more of a health threat. In such a situation, if you don't have access to medicines, you are being denied your right to health. So I'm holding the state accountable for ensuring the right to health. I mean, I'm not sort of pressurizing Roche to do anything. I feel it's our government's responsibility to do something. and a compulsory license for Herceptin seems to be a very, very logical route to go.
Thank you very much, Kalyani, for talking to us, and we do hope that this is a campaign that will involve larger and larger numbers, and we will come to some kind of a solution that will increase drastically the access to Herceptin and similar drugs for cancers and other diseases that are being developed. Thank you very much again.
Thanks.